Welcome to Stand, where we help make courage contagious. I'm your host, Kelly Chewbacca, former government watchdog and candidate for U.S. Senate here in Alaska. I'm joined today by my best friend and co-host, Mr. Nikki Chewbacca. The crowd goes wild. Hi, Nikki.
Thank you, Mrs. Kelly Chewbacca.
I'm so glad to have you today. We are talking to you from the last frontier, the great state of Alaska. And it is wonderful outside because it's always wonderful outside in Alaska. You can be sure to be one of our awesome standouts. Join us at our website, standshow.org. Find your favorite podcast platform. Join us on YouTube, social media. Make sure to hit subscribe. Become one of our standouts. Catch all of our awesome, famous last episodes, like the one we had with Bill O'Reilly. But today we have a great interview for you. Just like I ran for Senate in 2022, we have an awesome U.S. House candidate for us today in 2024. It is our current Lieutenant Governor, Nancy Dahlstrom, running for House in Alaska against our incumbent Democrat. This is one of the toss-up seats this cycle in America. It is a seat that Republicans can easily take back to add to their very slim majority in a count of 435 House seats. Democrats are fighting for their lives for this seat because they know that there are a lot more Republicans in Alaska than Democrats. And by the way, the entire West Coast has gone left. West Coast, left coast, but there is one bright red shiny star up here in the north called Alaska, and they are fighting to turn us blue. And so this is a seat that we can take back because after 49 years of this seat being red, it happened to go blue in 2022. So this is our chance to take it back. So today we're going to jump into all those in and outs and talk to our Lieutenant Governor, Nancy Dahlstrom, about her plan to take back this seat and turn it red. Nancy Dahlstrom, welcome to Stand.
Thank you so much, Nikki and Kelly. It's great to be here with you. I'm really happy for this opportunity.
We're so excited to have you with us. We want to open up and just hear a little bit about your story. What's your background?
Oh boy, I have an interesting story. So first of all, I'm the oldest of 6 kids. So I'm always used to juggling and, managing things and helping other people. So maybe some of that comes from that background. But, I came to Alaska with a girlfriend when I was 18. We came for a 2-week vacation. And then I decided I'm going to stay the summer. And she decided the same thing. And then both of us said, you know what, this is home. And we stayed here. We've been here. I've been here ever since. It's been 40 plus years. My friend was here until a few years ago when her husband passed away and she left state to be near family. But this is my chosen home and I'm happy to be here. I love Alaska. I have experience in private industry. I've worked in the utility industries. I have worked in retail. My dad had an insurance agency. I did a little bit of work there growing up. My dad also had a farm, a very small farm that he raised bison on. And so I had some interesting experiences helping to do that. But it wasn't a large herd like the great big national ones. There was only 25 animals, but they are beautiful creatures that I love. I'm so glad that we still get to see them and all the other beauty in nature. But I've also worked in the Alaska State Legislature. I have worked in several different administrations for Republican governors in other positions around the state. I ran for office again in 2018 and won. And the reason I ran and jumped back in was because I was so disgusted with what was happening in our state with crime. And basically we were saying, criminals, you've got the right of way, do whatever you want to do. Victims, so sad, sorry, you're a victim, but we don't care. And the criminals just were getting away. And I was sick of it. So I jumped back in. The governor knew what my stand was on public safety, and we aligned on that. And so he actually asked me if I would, instead of being seated in that office, if I would be the Commissioner of Department of Corrections. And I did agree to that. And I served in that position and really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it because of the great people that work in that department. And, a prison is like a little mini city, and you have everything, healthcare, education, all types of things in there. But I was doing my job, loving it. And then the governor said, "Hey, would you be willing to be my running mate?" And so I accepted that offer. That was willing to step up and help him. And, we've been doing that for the last 2 years. And then here we are. I don't like what's happening in our country, and I really don't like it, how it's affecting our state, our great state of Alaska. And it's time to jump in again and fight. We know that Biden is basically trying to shut our state down. And unfortunately, he's had the help of our congresswoman who's been voting and going right along, with him on these things. And so I want to fight. I'm willing to go to DC and stand up for Alaska. And that's why I decided to jump into this race.
Well, you've been standing up for Alaska for a long time, and it sounds like in a number of different capacities, both in the executive branch and in the legislative branch. So you've got a lot of the kind of experience that would be very helpful to bring to D.C., both as a legislator and as an executive. Can you talk about some of the other positions you held with other governors, in addition to the most recent one you had before becoming lieutenant governor, which was the commissioner of the Department of Corrections?
Sure. So I worked in Department of Commerce and was executive director of Serve Alaska. And what they do is they work with AmeriCorps members who go around the state and do wonderful projects. Nationwide, there's an AmeriCorps program. And again, they do lots of volunteer work. They do get paid for a lot of the work that they do, but they're doing everything from grandparent programs to helping kids, to helping build trails, to helping teach people literacy. They do all kinds of fantastic work. I worked in Department of Labor as the executive director of AWIB, which is Alaska Workforce Investment Board. And that's a 25-member governor-appointed board representing all industry in the state. Education and everything's represented in that. And the goal with that group was to bring people together, help promote the governor's plan and good economic plans and policies for the state of Alaska. And again, I love that because there's so many people. There's one thing, people that know me know my favorite thing is working with people. And I like talking and working with people all across the spectrum, and just having the opportunities to help and to learn from them all.
Nancy, sorry.
Go for it.
I was just curious, what makes you the best qualified to hold this position over our current incumbent?
Well, I believe that my votes, in fact, I know that my votes would be a lot different than the current incumbent. I served with Representative Peltola in the Alaska legislature, and she's a nice, wonderful lady. I like her, but our votes are very different. And that's why I'm running, is I disagree with the votes. I will always stand up for the military. I will always stand up, for our state, and I will stand up to unleash the resources in our state that are now currently bound up. And so not only are we not able to produce, which is affecting our economy, so, there's a trickle down effect with that. It affects our families. People can't spend the same, they can't enjoy the same things, but we've also had an outward migration in our state for 11 years. And when the economy is going down the tubes, people, they have to leave to find good opportunities. So those types of things are things that have been okay and she's voted with. I absolutely disagree with. I have far more extensive experience than she does in with the positions that I've held around the state. I've chaired major committees in the legislature. As a member of the House majority, you have those opportunities. I've served in leadership positions. I was the rules chair in the Alaska legislature in the majority. And the rules chair, I don't really like to brag about myself. It's easier to brag and build up other people. But the rules chair is important because that's the position that determines what legislation goes to the floor. It can be voted on, it can be passed out of the committee unanimously, and if the rules chair doesn't schedule it to the floor, it's not going to be heard. It's not going to be voted on. And so that's a position that's critical. Also, it's critical that that person is able to work with everybody, because, even though you're working with your majority, you're representing all Alaskans when you serve in the legislature, and it's important to be able to do that. And those are areas that I succeeded in. And I think, that's some experience that she hasn't had.
Right. One of the other things that I can say that I've appreciated about your leadership, Nancy, is the advocacy that you've done in the area of fighting human sex trafficking in Alaska, and fighting against sexual violence, and standing up for those voices that are often unheard in that area. And so we have about 30 seconds. Anything that you want to say on that before we head into our break?
Thanks for bringing that up. I will always defend the vulnerable and those that cannot defend themselves. We have a moral responsibility as Americans to do that, and I will always do that.
Wonderful. Kelly, any thoughts before we transition to the next?
Well, I'm excited that we recently heard you have an endorsement from President Trump. I get to serve as the Alaska State Chair for Trump's campaign. So how about on the other side of the break, we pick up telling the story about your Trump endorsement and talk about our path to victory in November and how Republicans can pick up this seat. I think it'll be really great to talk about that. You're on Stand with Kelly Nikki Chewbacca. This is where we stand for freedom, truth, and government by the people. On our break, make sure to hit us at standshow.org, hit subscribe, and figure out which of our past episodes looks most interesting to you. Become one of our standouts, and make sure to stand by. We'll pick up with Nancy Dahlstrom right after this. Welcome back to Stand with Kelly Nikki Chewbacca. We're so excited to have with us Lieutenant Governor of Alaska, Nancy Dahlstrom, running for the House of Representatives in Alaska this cycle. Nancy, we want to talk about some of the major endorsements you have in this race, because you have picked up a lot of support in a short amount of time. Most recently, one of the most coveted endorsements in the nation from our former president, and some would say he's still my president.
And soon to be president.
Donald J. Trump. Tell us a story about how you got President Trump's endorsement.
Wow. Well, thank you for bringing that up. I am thrilled to have that endorsement. Just beyond thrilled about it. President Trump is such a great fighter for the state of Alaska. And one of the things I want to say for everybody that's listening, the governor will tell you that anytime he's spoken with President Trump, the president has always said, "What can I do for Alaska?" He didn't wait to be asked. He said, "What can I do for Alaska?" And I love that about him. And I respect and admire that he has made it a point to know so much about our state and what's important. And I'm so happy that he weighed in on this race, because he, like us, know what's at stake here. Not only in our state, but in our country. And I believe that he feels the same way that I do, and I know you two do, in that our country, we are kind of at a crossroads, and we have got to get our country back. And it's essential that we have President Trump back in the presidency. And he knows that I'm a fighter. He's aware of my background. He knows what I have done. He knows some of the battles I've fought in the legislature. He knows I can stand strong when the winds are blowing very tough and strong and blowing the other trees down. He knows that I can stand strong, and I've proven that. The conversations that he had with Speaker Johnson, Speaker Johnson was able to talk with him a lot about the conversations that we've had and the in-person meetings. Congressman Steve Scalise, who is a big lover of Alaska, has been a wonderful friend and supporter to me right from the get-go. And I know that he talked to the president. Congresswoman Stefanik has been an incredible supporter and just given me many, many tips and been so supportive of this race. And she also loves Alaska. They know the type of fighters that we need. I've been thrilled to have the endorsement of Congressman Emmer, who his tie to Alaska is that he went to college on a hockey scholarship in Fairbanks. And so spent 4 years within our state and is also good friends with our Senator Dan Sullivan. And so he's been here quite a few times, knows what's important to us, and will always defend Alaska. He's been just incredible. But thankful for their endorsements. And Chairman Hudson, who's the chair of the Congressional Leadership Fund, has been wonderful. Winning for Women, which is an organization that helps to get conservative women into office in DC, have been very supportive and financially very helpful. So I'm grateful for all of those. The donations have been coming from lots of very good, strong Republican people who I'm so impressed with what they say about Alaska to me and how they know how important we are to the country. Not only the resources that we were talking about earlier that are bound up and locked up, but also the important position that we play in national security, how close we are to all these other nations and being, so close airways and everything that we have everything that another country would want in this state. And we know full well the biggest regret Russia's ever had was selling us. And they wish they could take us back. And of course, with that, we say, hey, good luck, give it a try, but it's not going to happen, right? We're not giving up Alaska. But we just have so many things going for us. And it's why I think the support of so many in DC has been there, because they know the whole country benefits from our state.
Did you have a chance to talk to President Trump yourself yet?
No, I have not talked to him personally yet.
Well, that'll be an exciting day when you do. I agree with you that he has been so supportive of Alaska, and I think it's huge that he has jumped in and had an opinion about this race, because it puts this race on the map nationally and will bring a lot of attention to having a decisive victory for Republicans. I think that's a big deal.
I agree with you. I think being on the map even more than we were is just critical. And we all know that it takes money to run a campaign.
That's right.
Nothing in this, I'm going to call it, industry of campaigning is free, nor is it inexpensive. And so I am always on the phone and asking people for donations and letting them know what I stand for so they know what their money is going to be supporting. But it's a part of the territory that comes with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the need for the helpfulness of endorsements, and of course the need for money and getting this race more on the national forefront, what do you see as the path to victory for us in this particular race to unseat Mary Peltola and get back this seat that Don Young held for so long?
Well, in our state, we have ranked choice voting that was put into the law. It barely won, and it was challenged in court, and the court said, hey, this is the way it is. And so we've been living with that. So what I like to equate it to is a game. That's the game we're playing right now, and we have to play by the rules. And the rules with ranked choice voting are that people pick their first choice and then they rank. Now, what Republicans need to remember is don't rank any Democrats, rank the Republicans. And if we do that, and if I want to earn people's vote, and I want people to vote for me, and I'm happy to answer any questions or, anything that they have for me. But I also want them to vote for the other Republican who's running as number 2. And I tell everyone, if you are voting for the other Republican, great. Vote for me, number 2. That's how we're going to win this. That is how we're going to have a conservative Republican in Congress, and our state will be represented better, and our country will be in better hands. So, moving forward, I am delivering that message everywhere I go. And there's no fighting and no fussing because I'm running against Peltola and Biden. And that's where every dollar and every cent and every bit of energy that I have is going.
And that's, that strikes me as that's the path. We have to rank the red. How there is still a certain margin of voters who are either skeptical of ranked choice voting, or may refuse to vote because they don't like ranked choice voting, or may refuse to, or might say, I don't want to rank because I am just in principle against ranked choice voting. And, that 2 or 3% of folks who might decide not to do that could make a difference. What do you say to those folks? How do we convince them to say, you know what, we understand, to your point, like you said, this is the system that we have. These are the cards that we've been dealt. We've got to work within the rules. How do we convince them to move forward and just rank the red? Because at the end of the day, gaining that seat back is what's most important. How do we get them to move on that?
So I have heard that comment from, a few people, and some people just feel like they're almost doing something morally wrong, Mark too. I mean, pretty much that's what they've said to me. I try and explain it to them. And it concerns me a lot. I'm going to keep on trying. We're getting education out to folks. I know that Division of Elections is continuing to put education out in written form, and there will be things coming out on the airways to try to help people. There's only one reliable place to get information about where to vote and explaining ranked choice voting, and that is the Alaska Division of Elections, and that's being advertised statewide. So, I refer people there all the time. If people say they're only voting for one, I ask them to please reconsider and to please think about it. I make sure that they have all my contact information and know they can contact me with any additional questions. And then I say, and if you're only voting for one, please let it be me, because I will represent you the best. And here's why. Everybody has a different, point, something that's super important to them. And I try to explain to them where I stand on that, so they know why it's in their best interest, to vote for me. I'm going to say the other Republican who is running has said they're dropping out if they come in third. And before you even ask me, I'm going to tell you that I have not made that statement, nor am I going to make that statement. What I have said is, let's see how all the votes shake out on August 20th. And if there's ever any questions, then I will call Nick and I will call the party chair, and let's sit down and let's talk about this and see what path do we have to move forward to have a Republican in Congress representing Alaska. That's what this whole thing is about. This isn't about me. This is about Alaska. This is the picture of the whole. This isn't just about one person or a couple people. And so I am looking at this as the whole and the big picture and what's best for Alaska.
Yeah, because we saw last time that obviously it doesn't matter how much education we do, the voters last time split the vote, and there's so much drop off with the second place ranking that even though there are more Republicans, and even though we elected a Republican governor and we would have elected a Republican president, well, we'll elect a Republican president this time, if we are splitting between two candidates then who are really close, then the vote will go to the Democrat. And we saw that last time. So we've got to be strategic. We also saw in 2022 that we just had significant voter drop off. And it seems that the data around ranked choice is that every time you have an election, there's more and more drop off. So I expect there'll be a little bit more voters this time because it's a presidential race, but it will be lower voter turnout than a normal presidential race. And so when we had 19,000 super voter Republicans who didn't vote in 2022, one of the big challenges to our path to victory this year will be just motivating Republicans to vote. We're at a break, so stand by with us. You're on Stand with Kelly Nikki Chewbacca. Stand by. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. You are on Stand with Kelly and Nikki Chewbacca, and we have the redoubtable Lieutenant Governor Nancy Dahlstrom on with us today, talking about her race to become the next representative for Alaska in the House of Representatives in D.C. and to unseat our current incumbent, Mary Peltola. Nancy, we'd like to talk to you now and get into the meat of things, the issues, and get your sense of some of the bigger issues facing the nation and impacting Alaska. And we'd like to start off with the border crisis because we know that you actually took the time to go down to the border and see for yourself what's happening down there. And that's an issue of great concern and interest for Alaskans. So can you talk to us about what happened down there, what you saw, what you experienced, and what your position is on this migrant crisis?
I also think we should point out, I don't think either our representative nor our senior senator have done that yet.
Yeah, they haven't. I don't think they've gone down to the border. So have they?
If they haven't said anything.
Yeah.
So, I'll tell you what, going there was an experience that I'll never forget. And I'm glad I saw it with my own two eyes. It's even worse than what you see on TV, or on any of the news outlets. But I was there from midnight till about 3:30 in the morning. And we were there with the Border Patrol agents, with the sheriff, with a retired sheriff from the area, and then Dan Wolf, who worked with President Trump, and some local farmers and other people were there. So we went. I was standing there by the wall. It's beautiful. The wall that Trump had built, 30 feet tall. The top of it, the top 6 feet are smooth metal. So even if somebody can shimmy their way, get up there, it's very hard to get over the very top of it. But even so, officers told me that it happens now and then. And then you see the part that that Obama built, and it's about 10, 12 feet lower, and it's not as firm. And then you see the part that Biden built, and the officers refer to it as the chicken wire portion. And really, that's kind of how it is. It's this more flimsy, almost like a backyard chain link type fence. You can go under it, you can go over it. It's insane. But we're standing there, and all of a sudden I could hear kids talking. And I thought, this is weird. There's no kids around. And then I can hear adults. And then all of a sudden behind me, in the dark, I see these shadows walking behind me, and step back and watch them go along. And then they went to the end of the wall, and they came around. There was between 80 to 100 of them, men and women, some small children. I didn't see any older people. There was more men than women. And I'm going to say they were very healthy looking. One could say fighting age. And, I don't know if they were families, or who the children belonged to, really. They were from 7 different countries just in this small group. And the majority of them didn't speak English. The officers had to stand there, almost act like a social worker, keep them in line, hand them water, stood there and watched one of the men actually just go up to the officer and flip him off right in front of his face. Just so disrespectful. Wow. Even after he just entered our country. These people were put on vans, air-conditioned vans, driven to a warehouse type place where they were given some paperwork, and I'm told a sack lunch that was full of a very healthy, hearty lunch, I'm told. And then they were put on air-conditioned buses, and from there driven to a processing center. And so we went to the processing center, and we saw them. Amazing how many people were on. Everybody had what looked like an iPhone, even the little kids. And there was a big, long charging station set up where they could charge, and the kids were on their phones and laughing and playing. I heard people calling and talking, and I don't know what they were saying. I don't speak Spanish. So I didn't understand any of it, but there was people asking them, where do you want to go in the United States? And they would tell them. And then it's our obligation as a country then, thanks President Biden, that we sent them to where they wanted to go. It was really disturbing to see. But the thing that hit me the most was I learned that there's 85,000 children that have come across the border. They're undocumented children. They didn't have an adult sponsor or chaperone with them. They came, and I said to the officers, oh, come on, how can this be? They said they have a note. They'll have a note safety pinned on the back of their shirt up by their neckline. And it'll say, my name is such and such, or my grandma or my aunt or whatever it is. Here's a number. Call them. They will come and get me or put me on a bus and send me there. Our people have to send them there. we don't know who these kids are. We don't know where they're going. We have no way to confirm. And yet we do know that in our country, we have a huge problem with sexual trafficking, domestic traffic, physical labor, all of these things. I mean, honestly, you and I know some of those kids aren't even alive anymore. I mean, unfortunately, they could be doing any number of things and we have no idea. And that just really made me sick to my stomach to think about it. But we've got 11 plus million people that are in this country. We don't know where they are, again, who they are, what they're doing. And nobody in the Biden administration seems to be bothered by that at all. And I find it very unsettling myself. And yet we have states that are giving them, programs, all kind of free medical, free, all these different things. We went to the local hospital there in Yuma and talked with the CEO at the hospital and some of the workers in the emergency room. And they said they've been working for months and months straight without a day off. They have all these people that will come in. The emergency room is full. They're lined up outside. They can't even get everybody taken care of. I mean, it's just a constant line. And then local people will come in with something. They can't even be seen because these illegal folks are there and they're getting care. The food banks are being hit hard. They're handing out food like crazy to all these illegal people. And again, United States residents that might need some temporary assistance aren't able to get any. And then, I never thought about this, but in Alaska, food security is a big deal because everything comes to us either through the air or by barge. And I didn't know that the Yuma area produces 90% of the fresh produce and lettuce that our country has. When these illegals come across and they lay down in their fields or walk through the fields or do anything that disturbs them, I mean, even if a dog comes and urinates on the crops, they have to destroy those crops. And my first thought was, oh, you're going to till the ground and it'll just act as a fertilizer. No, they have to actually pull everything up, uproot it, destroy it, and then replant. And this is all at the expense of the farmers.
Wow.
And, they've said there's no insurance for this kind of thing. So they're losing millions and millions of dollars. And these are the same people that go to bed at night and they put out water and snacks on their front porch, hoping that when the folks walk through their yards, that maybe they'll just grab that and keep on going, because many of them have woken up to an illegal person that they have no idea who it is sitting, staring at them while they're laying in bed. There's been robberies. There's been other horrendous things that have been happened. Sometimes people just say, hey, food, water. They want food and water. And so they set all this stuff out hoping to sleep through the night. And it doesn't always happen that way. They can't let their kids outside to play. Nothing is safe in those areas because there's constant activity of illegal people going through. And, the other thing is drugs. Now, as a former commissioner of Department of Corrections, I know what a thorough pat down is. And I watch these officers rub up and down their arm once and their leg once and say, okay, and that's all that they can do. That's all they've been given the authority to do. We all know that drugs can be put in many areas in one's body and also strapped to their body outside in many ways that you would not even notice underneath clothes. But these officers don't have the opportunity to check that. And so all these drugs are coming in. And in Alaska, we are being hit specifically by the fentanyl. Last year, we have the unfortunate fact that we had the #1 fentanyl death increase in the entire United States per capita. #1. That is unacceptable.
Well, and that's directly tied to the border crisis in the South. So we have the thought that, our border state is Canada, essentially. But you're absolutely right, Nancy, that our fentanyl crisis is directly tied to the Democrat border policy with Mexico and Latin America.
Right. And people in the healthcare industry in Alaska are affected by it. I've been told that there are lots of people coming to deliver babies or going to ERs seeking care They have no identification, nothing. And they don't seem to remember where they came from when they're asked. And so, again, we pay for all of that. And then we have to wait in line. It's not okay. And our national security, I'm talking to the choir, our national security is what's online here. We're ripe for something really bad to happen, and we have got to get an end to this. If we don't close our borders, we do not have national security. It's a total separate issue than immigration. We need to get the borders closed, and then we're going to figure out what we're going to do with immigration, how we're going to handle those 11 plus million people, and what we're going to do. I do think we could make changes to our immigration policy. I do think we could shorten the time and maybe make it a little bit easier for folks, with paperwork, but they have to go through the legal process to be here. And there's nobody madder about it than those folks that have come here legally, that know, they know what's happening, and they know of the ill intent. And everywhere I go, I have people that came here legally tell me how upset, they are about it. But we have a huge problem with our national security now.
Yeah, and that's national security and Americans being affected economically and in crime. It's a real big issue, and so glad that you are speaking forcefully and passionately about it, because it's an issue of great concern across the country, and of course here in Alaska as well. We're up at a break, and we are going to be back to talk more with Nancy about her run for Congress and the issues that she's passionate about, and what she is going to do for our state should she become the next Congresswoman from Alaska. Stand by.
Welcome back to Stand with Kelly Nikki Chewbacca. We're so happy to have Lieutenant Governor Nancy Dahlstrom with us to talk about the House race in Alaska. So, Nancy, I wanted to chat a little bit about the challenges with our current incumbent, Mary Peltola's votes, and how they don't really align with what's best for Alaska. One of the things I was concerned to see is Peltola voted this year to allow illegal immigrants, these millions of people who've come across the border illegally, to actually be included in the next census population count for America, which means that we would actually have redistricting across the U.S. to allow more votes in states like New York or California that are offering sanctuary status to illegal immigrants, which would allow more votes in the U.S. House for those states and would actually dilute the representation for Alaska. So we'll still only have like one vote, but there wouldn't be 435 votes in Congress anymore. There could be like 500 representatives in Congress. So we would now be one of 500 instead of one of 435. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, actually, I was sad, and I was angry, and I was disappointed, when I heard and learned about that vote. I can't even believe they're even talking about that, in DC. United States citizens are who should be counted in our census, and United States citizens are the ones that should be voting in our country. And unfortunately, there are some states that are even talking about, allowing illegals to vote. Well, they live here, so we might as well let them vote. It's like, wait a minute, they're illegals, they need to go. I was really disappointed. We'll always have two senators, two per state, but like you said, the number could go up. I mean, we could have way more than even 500
That's
people
right.
in there, voting. First of all, what a crazy zoo that would be. But it's just an illegal way to go about trying to create what they want to create, which is, control. And it just seems to me like some people are bent on destroying our country. I just don't understand the thinking of tearing things down and tearing apart what so many have fought and literally died for in our country and our Constitution that the founders wrote. And I believe they were inspired by God when they were writing that. And we have people trying to destroy that. And it's almost hard to put words at that. But I'm absolutely against Mary's vote. I would have voted different on that. Obviously, there was another vote just in the last 6 weeks that was really disturbing and should be to all Alaskans. And it was a vote. I think the bill was called Produce Alaska. And it was a bill that Peltola was one of the original sponsors on. And it was about increasing the production in Alaska. And then before the bill came to the floor, she sent an email out to all her Democrat colleagues saying, hey, I've learned some information that this is not, a good for Alaska or for the country. And so I'm asking all of you to vote no. And I know I didn't want to believe that she did that. And so the person that told me, I said, send it to me. And they did actually send me the email that she sent out. So I've seen it. But then making things even worse, when she got to the floor, she voted present. I don't think that that's okay. First she's for it, then she's against it, and then she's present. It's like, if you're against it, I guess put your money where your mouth is and vote no. But I was really sad about that. I mean, this is her state, and to care as much about it as she says she does, I would have thought she would, put her vote with something that would have benefited all Alaskans in our country. So just, that's been disheartening. I've been really surprised by that.
Well, there's a pattern that we've seen in her votes, right, where she ran a campaign that she was a little bit of a different kind of Democrat because she was a pro-resource development Democrat. And in that way, I think she got a lot of votes and support from Republicans in 2022. But then you're right that when she got to Congress, she has made a lot of flip-floppy votes. So she actually did this push against this bill you're talking about, which was actually to push against all of Biden's shutdown and restrictions on Alaska. He's had more than 60 administrative actions and orders to shut down resource production in Alaska. And this bill was actually brought by someone not in Alaska to push back on Biden. But then there have been other bills too, like she actually wrote a bill to support and champion preemptive vetoes by the federal government against resource production in Alaska. So there's now, an effort by our representative to say it's okay to not consider Alaska voices, to not consider Alaska data, to not consider the input of Alaska natives in the region where you would be looking at Alaska resource development. And instead, we're just going to let a bunch of bureaucrats in the Beltway 4,000 miles away make decisions that preemptively shut down Alaska resource development without any consideration of Alaskans and what we think, when we actually know best about what to do with Alaska resource development, whether that's mining or fishing or oil or gas or whatever. I think that it's really scary when we start ceding the power and the knowledge and the voices of Alaskans to the people in D.C. So she does a lot of this, and she flip-flopped what she wanted to do on Donlin Mine. She was for it, then she's against it. She flip-flopped on her position on the Ambler Road, and then she's got these votes, like you say, where she votes present or she happens to step out and go to the bathroom. So there's not really a record on where our pro-resource development representative actually stands on resource development in Alaska.
Right. And the voting there it isn't just a few minutes. There's plenty of time to go to the bathroom and come back. So,
that's right.
That's kind of a good one. But I've been disappointed by that and the changes. I mean, and I'm going to, for the record, I'll tell everybody I am supportive of Ambler Road. And, as far as our mining, our entire country needs our mines to be open. And we in Alaska have proven that we can do a lot of things and we still have respect for the land and we honor the cultural values and different things in our state while we continue to grow and produce our resources. The country needs our resources, and give mines the opportunity to at least go through the process of permitting. When Biden comes along and says, nope, we're going to just shut this down. No, you can't even give them, just like all businesses, if you want to do business, give them the opportunity to get a permit or a license. If there's something not right, give them the opportunity to fix it, make it correct. And, we'll just continue through the process. But just saying, willy-nilly, no, that is not the American way. And it's certainly not in America's best interest. But, even, on the bill that she voted present on, I will tell you, thank goodness for Representative Stauber from Minnesota, because on the Resources Committee, Mary didn't even stand up and defend our state in that committee. It took Representative Stauber to stand up and speak for Alaska and defend us and what we needed. And, I took the opportunity to write to him and also to call him and thank him so much for standing up, and ask him to continue doing that until I can get there, to be helpful. But it was sad and it was maddening at the same time.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of sad and maddening, Nikki pointed out to me before we did our interview that it is sad and maddening that the same people, huge donors across the U.S. that are supporting the anti-Semitic protests on campuses and across the world, are some of the largest donors supporting Mary Peltola's campaign. And we haven't heard a peep out of her condemning the anti-Semitic sentiment and treatment of Jews across our country and across the world.
Yeah, no, that is another point of concern. Nancy, we're coming up on the end of the show here, but we want to give you some time to address the voters here in Alaska and potential donors down in the lower 48. In these last 2 minutes that we have, what's your message to the voters and to potential donors?
Well, thank you. I want to start by saying, and following on what you just said, Kelly, I stand with Israel. And I always will stand with Israel. I have spoken publicly about it. I have written about it. I stand with Israel. And what happened on October 7th was horrendous. Israel has every right to defend themselves against Hamas. And I am angered that President Biden is being so wishy-washy about it, with the situation and what he is doing. But I'm running to defeat Mary Peltola and to return a conservative Republican to the United States Congress to represent us. Don Young did a fantastic job doing that for 49, almost 50 years. And I am going back to continue fighting so many of the fights that he started. I'm confident that I'm going to win this race. I have the backing of many prominent Alaskans. I'm grateful that Governor Dunleavy has endorsed me. I'm also grateful that Ann Young, the widow of Don Young, has endorsed me and has said that I'm the one person that she knows Don would have approved to take this seat. I'm grateful for the help that I've received from the good conservatives in Congress who know how important Alaska is, and they know the damage that's been done to our state, but to all of America by Joe Biden. We're kind of in shambles right now. Our economy is in shambles. Our border is wide open. The fentanyl that we've talked about is out of control. People are dying right and left, and young children are being they're trying to bully them into thinking that it's okay to identify as whatever they want to identify as, and they're putting these crazy ideas into their head about sexuality and different things, and it's not okay. That is not okay, and I will always stand up against those things. Those are our adversaries, and they've been emboldened by what Biden and his friends have been doing and allowing in our country. But it's got to stop, and I'm one of the people that's going to fight it, and we're going to turn this around. It's what's been happening is not okay. We need to get back to what we know is right, and treating Americans the way we know we should treat each other and act, and also letting people know and reinforcing that we are the greatest country on the face of this earth, and we remember our allies. We stand with our allies. We remember them. America is the greatest country.
All right.
Nancy, where can people donate to your campaign?
Oh, I would love it if people would donate to me. They can reach me at nancyforalaska.com. They can also send me emails through that site to nancyforalaska.com.
Thank you so much, Nancy. That wraps it up for us at Stand. You've been with Kelly Nikki Chewbacca, and we've had Nancy Dahlstrom on our show talking about the U.S. House race in Alaska. Can't wait to see you for another exciting episode for Stand next time. We're at standshow.org, and this has been a time when we've made courage contagious. We'll see you next time.